A bipartisan group of senators have negotiated a version of stimulus that is sure to displease pretty much everyone, both Democrats and Republicans, because it would only spend $908 billion. And the plan has been circulated by this bipartisan group. It's super light on details, so there's a lot that we still don't know. But here are the details that we do know, okay? It would provide $300 a week in federal unemployment benefits for 4 months, a lower amount than the $600 per week Democrats sought. The agreement includes $160 billion in funding for state and local governments, a key Democratic priority opposed by most Republicans, as well as a temporary moratorium on some coronavirus-related lawsuits against firms and other entities, a key Republican priority that most Democrats oppose. So let's stop for a second because I want to discuss this. One of the issues that has prevented passage of a stimulus bill is this notion of clearing companies of any type of liability if their employees get sick. Now, I understand that in some cases, companies might do everything in their power to prevent the spread of the virus, and even doing that, someone might slip up, there might be some mistakes, and it's a difficult time for a lot of people, a lot of companies. But what you should think about when you're thinking about these protections is how the Tyson meatpacking plant literally took bets on how many of their employees would get sick and potentially die from coronavirus as they were packing them into that meatpacking plant and forcing them, literally forcing them to avoid paying any attention to their symptoms and ignore any type of coronavirus illness they might be feeling. Okay, that's what the Tyson meatpacking plant did, and now they're facing wrongful death lawsuits because several of their employees died. Republicans want to protect companies like Tyson from those types of actions, from that type of behavior. They're disgusting, that's their priority. They don't care about whether you're gonna get evicted. They don't care about ensuring that you have enough unemployment benefits to get by during this incredibly difficult time where many states, many counties throughout the country are already forcing shutdowns. They don't care about that. They just want to make sure they protect those corporations who don't want to deal with lawsuits down the line.
Now, one more thing about how Democrats negotiate. We're going to get an even clearer example of this in a second, but this is unfortunately exactly what I predicted. The way negotiations work almost every time in Washington is Republicans put a marker out there and Democrats put a marker out there. The Democrats' marker is usually already halfway to the Republicans. And then they negotiate until they get lower than the Republican marker. But wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. You're supposed to maybe meet halfway. They don't even meet within the spectrum. So one example is this one. Democrats said we want $600 a week for unemployed people. Republicans said $400. They settled on $300. Democrats, the world's worst negotiators. There's more though, Anna's got more, and then I'll show you an even clearer example.
So here's a little more of what we know so far. And again, a lot of these details are hazy. We don't know everything we need to know about this bill. By the way, real quick, if you're wondering which moderate senators were behind this, we're talking about Senator Joe Manchin, the pretend Democrat. We're talking about Mitt Romney. I love that Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski are considered moderates because every once in a while they would kind of critique Donald Trump, but in reality they voted along with him the vast majority of the time. They're not moderates, and this proposed bill, stimulus bill, is garbage in my opinion, but let me give you more details. The bipartisan agreement includes about $288 billion in funding for small businesses, including through the Paycheck Protection Program and other aid. By the way, more than 100,000 small businesses have permanently shut down, closed during this pandemic. So thanks for your help, congressional leaders. It also includes $45 billion for transportation agencies, $82 billion for education, $26 billion in nutrition assistance, and, this is very important, a whopping $16 billion in healthcare, whoa, including to help with coronavirus testing and tracing and vaccine distribution. $16 billion to do all that. Problem Solvers Caucus, they really got it together, solving problems. Anyway,
so
garbage.
well, you might think, well, hey guys, 16 billion sounds like a lot of money. In the first bill, they gave big business, both from the Treasury and Federal Reserve, $2 to $4 trillion. So when it comes to big business, there's no end to the money that they'll give them. By the way, your money. So they'll take your money where you need it desperately. They'll take it from your taxes and give it to the biggest corporations in the world. They're not even American corporations, they're multinational corporations. But then when it comes to your healthcare, they're like, sorry, we ran out of all the money. We gave trillions to big business. So we got 16 billion left for you. Good luck with the vaccine, okay? So how about the size of the bill overall?
So if you guys can recall, the last time the negotiations were taking place between Donald Trump, Nancy Pelosi, and Steve Mnuchin was when Trump was worried about his chances of getting reelected, and he wanted to get closer to what Democrats wanted in their stimulus bill. Democrats wanted to spend $2 trillion. Trump said, okay, let's get all the way up to $1.8 trillion. So they were close numbers wise, but they were pretty far apart when it came to how that money was gonna be allocated, what the priorities in the bills would be. And to be quite honest with you, even on this date, we still don't know all of the specifics in the two conflicting bills, right? But again, Trump was offering 1.8 trillion, and then you have Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats with a $2 trillion bill. Here you have the so-called Problem Solvers Caucus offering a measly $908 billion bill.
Okay, so this is exactly as predicted on the Young Turks. When the Democrats came out, first they said 4 trillion, and the Republicans said 1 trillion. I said, watch how this negotiation is gonna go. They'll settle on less than 1 trillion. Now, at the time, if I told that to a mainstream media reporter, they said, Cenk, you're so outrageous. You're an outrageous radical. No, these wonderful bipartisan people are gonna get to a middle ground. Well, okay, so Democrats went from 4 trillion to 2.2 trillion. And Trump, because he was desperate to send out checks with the name Donald Trump on it, jumped all the way up to 1.8 trillion, right? But McConnell didn't want that. So McConnell is actually more powerful inside the Republican Party than Donald Trump is, so he killed it, so it didn't happen. But they were close, the Democrats were at 2.2 and McConnell was at 1.8. I'm sorry, Trump was at 1.8. And the Democrats didn't take the deal either. And now after the election, Republicans are like, no, now we're not even gonna give you $1 trillion. And what do the Democrats do? Now they have all the leverage in the world. They might actually even win the Senate. They've definitely got the House and they've definitely got the White House. So they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Of course we'll take less than $1 trillion. We solved your problem. Look at that, the Problem Solver Caucus solved the problem of Mitch McConnell and the Republicans. They also solved the problem of giant corporations who already took home all the money. The only problem they forgot to solve is your problem. Oh, you got coronavirus, you need the money, you need the assistance. Sorry, that's the one problem we forgot to solve. Democrats are the world's worst negotiators. You will see it time and time again. That's why I told you ahead of time. They almost always settle on a position that is lower than the original opening position of the Republicans. If you tried to negotiate that badly, you couldn't do it. And so then you know the fix is in. So the Manchins of the world aren't Democrats, they're Republicans. And they get a good laugh out of how they're all gonna help their donors. And at the end, they're like, we wound up lower than the original Republican proposal. That's so funny. And then we called ourselves problem solvers. And by the way, then we got all of the mainstream media to applaud us for being bipartisan. Not one of them could do math. Not one reporter nationally can do math. It was hilarious. And you know what they did after that? They called Schumer and Pelosi master legislators. Oh, the media is such suckers. It's so easy to use them.
So by December 11th, Congress needs to pass a spending bill, right, to fund the government. They, should prioritize a stimulus bill considering many of the protections, coronavirus-related economic protections for Americans expire at the end of this year. And then the third thing, major thing that they will surely prioritize is the defense bill.
Of course.
So I guarantee you guys, guarantee that they will, of course, prioritize the defense bill. They will pass the defense bill. I think that the congressional Democrats will even renege on their promises to rename military bases that have been named after Confederate soldiers, right? Because that's the one issue that Democrats and Republicans are feuding on right now. That's the one issue that Trump says he would veto a defense bill over. So we'll see how that plays out. I think that Democrats are gonna fold because they're professionals in folding. That's what they do.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.